Welcome to Creature Guide Live Daily News. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ethan. Today we're going over a new hadrosaur discovery as well as a new species of theropod over in North America. And as well, we're going to be going over cheetahs. So, from Sign News, new bird-like dinosaur unearthed in Wyoming. A new species of carnivorous bird-like dinosaur being named Hesperornithoides mycelori has been discovered by an international team of paleontologists from the United States and the United Kingdom. Well, it's good to see that both. What happened? Oh, um, both these countries are collaborating. Wow, this looks like a very close relative of the Archaeopteryx over in Germany. The question is this living towards a similar time? I don't recall if it said it was from the Jurassic or not. But this is likely my guess, either a member of the Paravest lineage or maybe of the Dromaeosaur family. Now, technically, if you were to take the Paravest lineage or the like a smaller family of the Paravest lineage of theropod dinosaurs, like the Archaeopterids and the Dromaeosaurs, they both belong to a larger group of Coelurosaur theropods known as the Maniraptorids or Maniraptorans. And this would also include the different species of oviraptorids, the therizinosaurs, the alvarezsaurids, the archaeopterids, and as well even the birds, and a wide range of dromaeosaurs. It would not include the other types of coelurosaurs like the megaraptorids as well as the tyrannosaurs. So, Hesperornithoides mycelori roamed our planet approximately 150 million years ago. Wow, that's the exact same time as Archaeopteryx was inhabiting Germany, literally like 150, 151 million years ago. Interesting. Nicknamed Lori, the ancient creature was about the size of a chicken and lived in a world populated by giant dinosaurs such as Stegosaurus, Diplodocus, and Allosaurus.
I thought you were gonna say and populated by giant chickens.
Um, Yeah, unfortunately, well, I guess you could say close relatives of chickens won't evolve until the Cenozoic era. But at this point, this is practically at the time when the first birds had evolved, such as Archaeopteryx. So, since we are in the Jurassic, um, let's bring up another species of sauropod, Haplotocus. Or Catatogus. Kaadocus.
TED.
Oh, okay. So this is at least when referring to the late Jurassic. So this is one of the more talked about times of the Mesozoic era, but there's still a lot about this period. And even when it comes to Western North America, that's not often mentioned. But this is also a species of dinosaur that rarely comes up as well. It is related to the Diplodocus carnegi that would have existed at around the same time over in Colorado, South Dakota, Utah. But this animal is much smaller, and it possibly belongs to a separate lineage of the Diplodocus lineage of sauropods. So, this animal was probably about half the length of a large Diplodocus, only reaching maybe somewhere around 45 feet in length or pushing somewhere around 14 meters, and probably didn't weigh much more than 5 to 7 tons as at most, considering it's a very lightly built animal. I think this is supposed to represent like quicksand or something. Like
Oh,
not necessarily a tar pit, but I'm guessing quicksand.
it's definitely some
Um,
strange screaming.
yeah, I was wondering what those carnivores were in the background. This animal is very lightly built compared to many other species of sauropods, even when it came to the diplodocid lineage in general, even though the diplodocids are seen as being very lightly built. I'm wondering who specifically those other carnivores are in the background.
No, there's not 2 heads. Are those real?
Well, I mean, this is supposed to depict the Catadocus suffering over in the late Jurassic. It's probably supposed to depict like the dry season, and they were looking for water, and they ended up mistaking the mud for specifically water. But this animal is likely just feeding on different species of conifers as well as ferns during late Jurassic Wyoming, and also coexisted with animals like Camarasaurus, Brachiosaurus. Camarasaurus, though, possibly existed a bit earlier in time. But still a mystery to me, at least at the moment, as to what specific type of, I'm guessing, Silorosaur is in the background. Doesn't seem to be like some juvenile Allosaurus or Torvosaurus. It's a completely different lineage. And also, these animals did not chew their food. When looking at the tooth structure of practically all species of sauropods, they would simply grab some conifer leaves and swallow them whole, and then probably walk over to like a riverbed or a lake to swallow some small stones that we call gastrolids to help grind the food in their gizzards, or like birds today would in their own gizzards,
What
as well as certain smaller species of theropods.
what's with the face?
Yeah, I mean, obviously this guy's got a problem. No species of sauropod dinosaur had this type of a tooth structure, and dinosaurs in general, there's like a handful of species, but it's really when looking at the theropod lineage like Ceratosaurus that
Sogo
certain
Hotel says they have 2 necks and 2 heads. No, it's 2 different
yeah, if we're looking at that other painting,
well,
it's two completely different individuals. They
you're
just got stuck.
I think it's because they're looking on the short feed and not the full screen version that we're running.
Yeah, that could be messing with the view as well. And then there's a third well, technically there's 2 dead ones, and, yeah, the 2 others that are suffering. Yeah, but when it comes to, that other one in, like or amongst the creek, at least when it comes to the canines, we don't have any evidence for different species of dinosaurs to have had canines. They had a very distinct set of teeth compared to many species of carnivorous mammals.
Oh, the AI version just looks vicious.
Yeah,
Or
I
he's
mean,
smiling, I can't tell.
yeah, he seems like he's smiling, like he's a bit friendly, and,
He's asking for a dentist.
that too. I mean, his teeth, looking at it, seem quite healthy, maybe a bit chipped at the front, but it also could just be in the eye sense, just naturally shaped that way. But this dinosaur in general, and looking at even the overall skull structure,
Sogo Hotel. If you go to our main channel, you can actually pull up where it shows the whole screen of the picture, so it's not cutting it like it is in the short version.
so basically, when it comes to the skull structure of this sauropod in general, this is not something that you see in any species of sauropod.
But is it a carnivore?
Yeah, it looks like something mixed up, or the AI mixed up a.
Is it a carnivore?
Okay. If we're referring to Catodocus, no, it is a species of herbivore, and practically all species of carnivorous theropod dinosaurs did not have the ability to slice through plant material. Okay, let's head back to the article. Whoa, okay. But it will. Where was I? Okay, the partial, well-preserved skull and postcranial skeleton of Hesperornithoides micelleri were found in 2001 at the Jimbo Quarry in the Morrison Formation near Douglas, Wyoming. This makes sense. A lot of late Jurassic dinosaur species, whether it's herbivores or carnivores, do come from the Morrison Formation. Also, 150 million years ago is a very common date to find a wide variety of fossils, but you can still find them a few million years earlier in time, as well as towards the very end of the Jurassic, around 145 million years ago. I remember the first time I laid my eyes on this little dinosaur, even back then, I knew it was a significant discovery, said team member Dean Lomax, a paleontologist and visiting scientist at the University of Manchester. But it wasn't until 2015 when our dino team formed and we began to study Lori in much more detail than ever before. So I'm guessing what is this? Part of the skull and skeleton of Hesperornithoides. Okay, so this is of the much smaller species of theropod dinosaur. Interesting. It is somewhat more similar to Archaeopteryx or maybe even Microraptor to a certain extent, but Microraptor won't evolve for probably another 30 million years at least. So, eventually evolving somewhere around 125 million years ago in early Cretaceous China. So, one of the other key findings of the study relates to the origin of bird flight. Hesperornithoides mycelleri is a highly terrestrial proto bird, suggesting that many features scientists associate with being bird like evolved in dinosaurs that lived out their lives on the ground. Well, that's definitely true. I mean, the ancestors, direct ancestors to the birds, were likely also smaller species of dinosaurs, not descending from any log or any larger species of theropods like T. rex, Spinosaurus, even different species of large raptor or dromaeosaur, likely coming from smaller theropods that first evolved during the Triassic period.
Plate
Over,
track says what time period are we looking at currently?
we're looking at, or this fossil is coming in from the late Jurassic, about 150 million years ago. Let's see. What else do they find? We found that Lori is a primitive member of a group of dinosaurs that includes Troodon. That is very true. Or that's not too surprising considering it is part of the, I would assume that's part of the Menomoraptoran lineage of dinosaurs, which would include the Troodontids, Dromaeosaurs, Alvarsaurs, Therizinosaurs. But perhaps more importantly, we discovered that the smaller details of the family tree of bird like dinosaurs isn't quite as resolved as some researchers would claim, said team leader Scott Harmon, a PhD candidate at the University of Wisconsin Madison.
Sogo Hotel says, how wait, how did humans survive with all these large dinosaurs?
Well, our ancestors at this point were likely not much larger than certain species of mice, or maybe even a jerboa over in the Sahara Desert. But probably the mice or even the pikas over in like the Rocky Mountains of British Columbia, certain parts of Montana are probably better to compare it with. So, talking about an animal that maybe weighs somewhere around half a pound or maybe zero point 0.3 kilograms. So, um, it wouldn't be until probably, at least when it comes to direct human evolution, I don't specialize in anthropology, but it's probably not until somewhere in the Miocene epoch, or maybe pushing somewhere between 8 to 12 million years ago, do we start seeing a massive increase in size when it comes to the ancestors to all hominids. So including, modern Homo sapiens, the Neanderthals, the Denisovans. But at this point, the largest mammals that existed during the Mesozoic era, the time of the dinosaurs, were maybe weighing in at somewhere around 40 pounds. That would be massive for a mammal during the Mesozoic, which in some cases they might have even hunted, or there seems to be evidence for them hunting smaller species of dinosaurs, is how powerful these small mammals were. But also probably reaching somewhere around 15 to 17 kilograms. And also, many species would have been herbivorous as well. You also had a wide range of mammals that were much more closely related to certain marsupials of today, like the tree kangaroos of northeastern Australia, or even the different species of wallabies over in the southern part of the continent as well. And then you had more or other species of mammals that were more closely related to placental mammals today, like polar bears, elephants, people. So, for example, it only takes, or at least heading back to the article, for example, it only takes a few changes in the data set for Hesperornithoides mycelleri to be found as a closer relative of Velociraptor than of Troodon. Now, that is very peculiar. I wasn't expecting that. I was thinking, well, maybe um, this animal might be a closer relative of, like, specifically, the Archaeoraptorids, or yeah, I'm saying that correctly, and maybe certain later species of birds into the Cretaceous period, because you had a wide range of different species of true bird, a bit more distantly related to today's birds, but more closely related to them than the raptors or the dromaeosaurs. But it's putting Velociraptor up there, which in some cases you could say is not necessarily too surprising, considering this animal seems to have had sickle claws or that specific thumb claw on their hind feet.
Wait, haven't a form of humans been here over 200,000 years?
I think Neanderthals have easily been existing for somewhere around 350,000 to 450,000 years, possibly even longer. They're not true humans, though. They're closely related. Um, but see,
I thought there was
like,
something that was found like 2.
oh well, it's only one type of hominid, and there were also different types of Neanderthals as well. It wasn't just one kind of Neanderthal. There were different populations that like had their own distinct genetics. But when it comes to hominids in general, I think at least in the past maybe 1 to 2 million years that I know of, or at least during the Pleistocene or the Ice Age, I think we have found somewhere around 12 different types of hominid, mainly constituting different parts of um, Asia, Europe, Africa.
Blank
And there's a
chat said sapiens.
yeah, when it comes to Homo sapiens, possibly they arrived somewhere around 250,000 to 300,000 years ago. And there is constant change when it comes to the whole out of Africa theory. So, that's really all I can say about that. Okay, so let's see. Maybe we should bring up somebody else. Okay, so we're dealing with a late Jurassic animal. Um, Anything else?
No, just goofy stuff in the chat.
Okay, so um, I guess let's bring up Camarasaurus. So it is a bit of a closer relative to the other sauropod, Camar. It is interesting that they found this specific type of animal over in Lake Jurassic, Wyoming. This is really something that's a bit more common or heard of over in different parts of Europe. And then as you travel later into the corresponding Cretaceous period, over in the different parts of China, Mongolia.
Oh, like this. Oh, hold on, let me shrink it.
Wow, is this supposed to be a Camarasaurus?
What it says.
It certainly is possible. That's a big one, though. That's probably a Brontosaurus or an Apatosaurus towards the bottom. I might guess an Apatosaurus, judging by how robust the neck is. This might be a prehistoric kingdom. Camarasaurus, judging by the skull structure, has a distinct, not necessarily a dome or even a crest, but just that elongated, like upper part of the upper maxilla region of the skull. Camarasaurus is a member of the Camarasauridae lineage of sauropod dinosaurs, which had a brief period in evolution. They didn't exist for very long. I think somewhere between 10 to 20 million years, and then they just simply disappeared. It's a big mystery. This seems like a slightly more older depiction of a Camarasaurus. It seems quite skinny. And also, the head structure is a bit more similar to that of certain species of titanosaurs later in the early Cretaceous period, as well as even the late Cretaceous as well. But it doesn't have a very Camarasaurid type of a morphology when it comes to its skull structure. It should be a lot rounder and even taller compared to what we're seeing here.
Sogo Hotel said, "See, humans did exist. You can see them in the referenced in the last picture, by the way."
Oh, wait a second. Were you seeing certain Oh, yeah. Yeah, very true. They were always there. Let's see. So, yeah, apparently
That was funny.
yeah, they had pets back then. But when it comes to, yeah, that specific Camarasaurus, which would be supposedly the taller individual over on the upper right.
Oh.
Which is interesting. I haven't seen this robust of a Camarasaur depiction before. I mean, In some cases, it tends to be more of like the core or even like the upper foreleg shoulder blades, as well as maybe like the bottom of the neck that might have a bit more muscle. But this is approaching like certain taller titanosaur species, which are a bit distantly related. You could even say maybe even brachiosaurs in some cases,
Okay, this is
especially like animals such as giraffe titan.
this is a little deranged.
Oh, yeah, it's just from, one of Doctor Robert T. Bacher's books. So the paleontologist who helped bring back the theory that dinosaurs, the theory from the Reverend Edward Hitchcock in the 1800s that was, arguing with other scientists, especially over in England, that dinosaurs were not these cold-blooded, slow-moving, unintelligent, non-parenting animals, but were actually, taking care of their young. They were possibly even very bird-like or even feathered and quick and also very smart, and, still rejected for quite some time, and then John Ostrom, Dr. Bacher's mentor, and Bacher himself helped bring back Edward Hitchcock's theory, and this is one of his,
Okay, from the
books.
small view of it, it says it's a Allosaurus sharing a Camarasaurus leg with its offspring.
Yeah, I figured, that was what was going on here. Yeah, so it's they simply took off the whole leg, and you can see the ligaments. Well, I don't think you can see the ligaments very well. I think it's a very good depiction. That's a huge Camarasaurus individual, though, or it's just a smaller Allosaurus. But that's interesting. When it comes to the skull structure of this picture, it's better than one of the other depictions of Camarasaurus, but it's still a bit off. To an extent, it almost has like a xenomorph look to it. But putting that aside, actually, it's very far off from that creature. It was a really bad comparison. This animal, I mean, it's showing the more like somewhat robust upper skull structure, just the roundish or somewhat mesocephalic type of look. And when it comes to the neck structure, I think it might be a bit thin, but it's also, I think, a bit odd that it has a bit of a horizontal angle. Usually, I mean, always when it comes to Camarasaurs, they're at a bit of a vertical sort of a stature and not horizontal, like something that you might see in certain Brontosaurus or Apatosaurus comparisons or reconstructions. Once again, the sauropod has canines, and even the teeth in general are very far off, especially towards the back supposed molars. The front teeth look much more sauropod like, but besides that, also when it comes to the head structure in general, it seems quite far off for a Camarasaur.
So go tell us it is it like a Brontosaurus?
It's a bit more distantly related. Brontosaurs, they belong to more of the Diplodocid lineage of, or Diplodocidoidea lineage of sauropod dinosaurs. The Camarasaur is a Camarasauromorph and is slightly, a bit more closely related to the Brachiosaurs than per se the Diplodocids. Also, they were much shorter in terms of length. Camarasaurus probably reached somewhere around 60 to 65 feet in length, or pushing somewhere around 20 to 22 meters, and probably weighed somewhere around 15 to 20 tons. It was also much more heavily built compared to other members of the Diplodocid lineage like Diplodocus.
Uh, Link
Probably.
Tracks is referencing their ability to hunt and their intelligence level. Said there's no way they were stupid.
Well, that is the thing when it comes to pretty much most or all prehistoric animals is that they had some level of intelligence. So you are right on that. And also, in order to have survived for a certain period of time, you're going to need some level of intelligence. But when it comes to the simple problem solving that these animals had to make, you really didn't need that large of a brain, or especially like a frontal cortex. There's many parts of the brain, but to have a successful lineage for a few million years, all you have to do is continuously have a steady supply of food as you're making it towards, or um, like different parts of the dry season, and especially also not just taking advantage of certain plentiful plant material that's probably richer in nutrients, minerals, different chemical compounds during the wet season, and as well, even probably um, having young hatch during that time as well, so they get a quick and healthy start for growing.
Blink tracks, were you referencing the herbivores or the, carnivores?
They're herbivores in this case.
No, I meant blink tracks. I
Oh.
was wondering.
It could be though somewhat similar for the carnivores when it comes to um, having it where they're young or having a successful start to life. But in some cases, you could have it where the dry season might be a bit more beneficial for the carnivores, considering it's when the herbivores are a bit weaker. The problem is that the herbivores aren't as in fit condition, so it can really be quite difficult to pinpoint whether or not sometimes the dry season or the wet season is better for the carnivores. But I would think in the end, to a major extent, if the herbivores have a much better or much larger supply of muscle on them, and in turn, meat for the carnivores, then the wet season would be better for the carnivores as well. So that's a bit of a tricky one sometimes. So, where were we? One robust finding we did come up with is that even as the interrelationships changed, the primitive members of all these groups were non flying, ground dwelling dinosaurs. Oh, I think I said that. That means that some small relatives of Velociraptor, such as Microraptor, that looks like it, could have glided evolved this way or this separately from the modern bird family. Yeah, both Velociraptor and Microraptor did take several or separate branches in evolution when it came to the Mammaraptoran lineage of dinosaurs, but they did not make it into the corresponding Cenozoic era. The Microraptorids were a bit more closely related to the group of Maniraptorans or the birds in general, like the smaller group of Paravis that would cling on to the Cenozoic era, even the current era that we're in, but both still died during the Cretaceous period. Oh, that's it. Okay. We're gonna head forward in time to another part of the world. This was really good to see with this specific close relative of the Archaeopteryx.
Uh, Blink track said, "What do you think might have sparked the frontal cortex growth in mammals after the dinosaurs had died out?"
That is a really good question that I can't answer at the moment. Um, well, at least okay. Um, actually, you know what? I'll put out a couple of theories. I think that certain things might have been climate. Maybe a certain also type of cooling event might have helped the animals or mammals specifically increase that part of the brain. However, if you look at the climate right after the extinction of the dinosaurs, it tends to be or it seems to be a bit warmer. But I think that's a bit of a debate after the mass extinction, like for um, maybe a few tens of thousands of years or even a few 100,000 years, but there's a lot that can change in evolution in even a shorter amount of time. Like when it comes to the span of um, thousands of years, in some cases, like a few 100 years, we've seen dramatic changes in like certain skull structures of different animals today, like with certain wolf or, yeah, specifically wolf populations over in Northern Europe when they were introduced to moose after not coming in contact with the animals for several decades. And they ended up in later generations creating a more broad jaw structure. And that was just within a few decades. So, but we're talking about specifically the brain. I think it has to do with climate, possibly nutrition as well. Um,
What 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 was the animal that was on the island that could drink all of a sudden salt water?
oh, wait, the island. Well, I was thinking that today you have it where because there's 2 species of the 2-humped Bactrian camels today.
No, no, I'm not talking about the hump the camels. It
Well,
was like a goat or a sheep or something.
oh, yeah, okay, so there was an island over in gosh, what was it? Some part of Brazil, I think, where, a herd of sheep ended up just being abandoned, and apparently they ended up, either evolving kidneys that became especially well equipped to handle the salt water because there wasn't really any available fresh water on the island, or they were feeding on a certain type of vegetation where they were obtaining enough fluids or just enough fluids from to sustain themselves. But
Well, that was a quick it was quick. It was like
yeah, it was just
50
I think
years or something?
yeah, it was less than a century. Um, yeah, but it's like I see it as climate, nutrition, possibly also the type of habitat. Where specifically, I think it's just hard to pinpoint where specifically, like our smaller ancestors were inhabiting at that point in the Cenozoic. So I'm talking somewhere between 65 to 66 million years ago, right after the mass extinction event.
How big were mammals when dinosaurs went extinct?
Probably the largest mammal. Well, the largest mammals probably at that point went extinct, but all of the smaller individuals probably
No,
made
no,
it.
but
But
how large were the largest mammals when they went extinct?
probably 35 to 40 pounds or pushing somewhere around 15 to 18 kilograms.
Well, that's still pretty small.
It is for the Mesozoic. It's huge though. Um, there's other things specifically. Um, I mean, obviously, certain specific types of genes that were being passed down as well that were already being shaped by former types of climates, ecosystems, and nutrition they were feeding on. Probably certain specific types of insects, fruits that had evolved. Maybe they were munching on fish or certain types of other reptilian, amphibian, or mammalian protein as well.
Hold on. Link Track said, "Yes, and I've heard once that bacteria in a poisoned lake that evolved to use arsenic as their fuel within 50 years." I think the number of generations would have been very high, though. Um, wait, that's yeah, arsenic. So poison? So they were literally using poison to live off of?
Are we talking about like a specific type of animal that was living off of um
It said bacteria.
oh
It said there was
um
a bacteria that was using arsenic. Well,
well
bacterias, don't they use all types of things?
yeah, that is true. There's not much I can say about that. That is interesting. I hadn't heard of that before. But also with the bacteria, I guess it isn't too surprising that in that short amount of time that that was able to occur. That's still quite miraculous. But, it just is quite interesting when it comes to, tiny bacteria and then even much larger animals, and you can see in a very short amount of time massive evolution occur. Even though you don't have it where the animal is necessarily turning to its own distinct species, but I think well, in some cases, you would assume that would it be there that it, would be changing to its own species or even genus in some cases, maybe even changing to a different subfamily. But, I think it's just odd sometimes to why, um, maybe certain other taxonomists decide not to classify, certain animals going through these changes as, like, another creature overall. I'm trying to think of any other variants that would help or that would cause a massive change in also that short period of time. Um, maybe altitude as well. That likely has a very maybe a smaller impact to an extent.
I would think a lack of food in an area could cause their brain to increase because then they have to figure out how to get it.
See, I would think so. You would think that, but when you look at a wide variety of different animals today that do not have access to a wide variety of food, in many cases, they don't have a larger brain. This is actually what occurs with like different species of marsupials, and they tend to have smaller brains than compared to placental mammals. So, like for say, kangaroos compared to like American black bears. Also, when you look at like many, even though there are certain species in certain more arid or semi-arid regions where they're not necessarily dumb, but it's just that um, I think the ones that have access to a wide variety of different food options tend to be more adaptable. Um,
Like
and
Track said, but what I wonder what the selective pressure was that drove the need for more complex thought.
Yeah, I think it was, um, yeah, possibly what was going on was a bit of a change in what?
Finish what you were saying.
Oh, I'm just, yeah, like change in climate, change in nutrition, possibly, also maybe a decrease in their own kind. And a certain species is trying to figure out like what specifically is like the best, like other closely related kind to breed with, possibly.
And then Blame Track said, if, as you say, dinosaurs could survive without the need for bigger frontal cortexes. Well, that's not what you're saying. Or you said
Oh,
quite a
well,
few dinosaurs were actually very smart.
um, yeah, especially when you're looking at different species of theropods. Now, I'm going to have to like review what we have analyzed of like different sauropod brains, but I was just referencing I might have stated that a bit off, but I was just looking at animals like chimaerosaurs and the diplodocids as just not needing a lot of like, just not needing major thought processes because what they're having to accomplish in life is or seems pretty simple. They're just having to obtain, like, maybe the 400 pounds of food at least during the day, though at their size, probably much more, maybe pushing somewhere around 800 to 1,000 pounds or somewhere around 400, 450 kilograms, swallowing small stones to help grind their food. Like a certain part of the year that they go to breed, and they also have to just fend off each other so they can, or different male sauropods in general, so they have access to more mates and certain just typical annual migrations, having their young, and that's pretty much it. And then you also have it where they're having to fight off like different predators. Um, but that's why just when it comes to also even maybe the social dynamics of certain other animals like diplodocids, we have several footprint layers or um footprints, footprint preservations that are indicating these animals were social. But when it comes to just the overall social dynamics, it's a big question as to like how complex was it. I would just assume for that large an animal with a brain that's extremely small, like in some cases, somewhere between like the size of a golf ball and a tennis ball, that there wouldn't be very much going on. But yeah, that's why I made that comment about the frontal cortex. I was slightly just being sarcastic to an extent,
But
but I'm
there's
going to.
people brains that there isn't much going on in there either.
Yeah, it is very true. Um, see. Yeah, but when it comes to the other variants in just quick evolution, especially to the early mammals of the Cenozoic, and not just to even the ancestors to primates and then in turn hominids, but even the other wide variety of different mammal lineages that would become different members of the proboscidean or the elephant family that would lead to mammoths and mastodons, the giant ground sloths, as well as like saber-toothed cats.
Wait, how big were giant ground sloth brains though? Weren't they big?
That I actually haven't taken a major look at, but definitely much larger than the sauropods. But when it comes to the overall size, I do not know. Um, yeah, I'm definitely going to take a look into that. Okay, let's see what's going on with our furry friends. So from khq.com, 7 endangered cheetah cubs born at a zoo, a huge conservation win. That is really good to hear. Wow. Yeah, they look pretty happy here. I think I just see 4 though. Wonder where this occurred. So, 7 endangered cheetah cubs have been born at a UK zoo. The cubs were born at Whipsnade Zoo on May 18th. Okay. First time mom Amira gave birth to 4 cubs at Whipsnade Zoo on May 18th, followed by her sibling Zara, who delivered a litter of 3 just 5 days later. The Bedfordshire attraction said the arrivals are a boost to the International Conservation Breeding Program for their endangered subspecies, the northern cheetah, Echinonyx hubatus suamorangi, the northern cheetah. Um, I wonder if this is referring to possibly certain populations over in different parts of Kenya or maybe even West Africa this is definitely not referring to like the cheetah over in Iran, which there might be somewhere between 20 to 30 individuals. So, Sarah McGregor, section manager of the Predators team, said, "We're absolutely delighted to have 7 healthy cheetah cubs at the zoo." Yes, this is really good to hear, considering there's only around 7,000 to 7,300 cheetahs in the wild in total, with the largest population occurring over in Namibia. So just northwest of the country of South Africa, there's somewhere between 2,500 to 3,500 cheetahs in the area. I don't think they have had a current estimate recently. Wow, that must have been like that specific morning or earlier in the night when this occurred. Wow, well, that's
She's
really
like,
good to see.
"I'm tired."
Yeah, I mean, I guess on the bright side, she isn't having to be too concerned about like black mamba snakes, puff outer snakes, both of which are venomous over in sub-Saharan Africa, and as well, spotted hyenas, leopards. She seems to be in, yeah, it's a pretty good nest. So Amira and Zara have taken to motherhood wonderfully. We've seen them nuzzling, cleaning, and feeding their cubs diligently over our CCTV cameras. It's been 15 years since cheetah cubs were last born at Whipsnade, so these 7 new additions are really something special. They're not only so important for the conservation breeding program, but represent a continuation of a long history of successfully breeding cheetahs at Whipsnade Zoo in an incredibly special year for us. Due to the threats, including habitat loss and fragmentation, the illegal pet trade, human animal conflict, more than 90%. Yeah, it's really unfortunate. They are now estimated, yes, 7,000 cheetahs. I think it's a little higher unless there's been poaching recently, which is certainly possible. Fewer than 600 northern cheetahs. I need to figure out where specifically this small population is because they are genetically distinct from other populations. However, you could say that, yes, all the cheetahs are somewhat inbred, but this inbreeding did not occur due to some bottleneck due to overhunting in recent centuries, but much earlier back towards the end of the Pleistocene epoch or around the end of the last ice age. So, somewhere around 11 to 12,000 years ago, you had it where there were just literally a handful of cheetahs, and all the cheetahs since then came from that small number. So McGregor added, "It's really significant to have these cubs in the year that ZSL celebrates its 200th birthday, a sign of our continued efforts to conserve threatened species and create a world where wildlife can thrive." Is this another picture? I think it's just from the other side. Yeah, no, that's another room.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not the same thing.
Mm.
So I think this was like earlier this month. Yeah, they seem pretty healthy.
Hold on. You can't
Oh, okay, maybe May.
It just looks like there's something there. You can't even tell they're cubs. Matter of fact, they look like some other type of animal.
Yeah, they do, and,
Groundhogs?
yeah, I guess you could say when they're in their coloration at this point, a bit closer to woodchucks or groundhogs, same thing. Marmots. But when as they mature a bit more, but they might have it already at this stage, they do have a massive array of, fur occurring from, like, the top of their head down to, like, around their upper pelvis region towards the back of the tail, like, to help distinguish them from, different age groups. And that's it from that. Okay, that's really good to hear. Let's head back in time to another part of the Mesozoic. So, from Sci News, new dinosaur species uncovered in Mongolia. Paleontologists in Mongolia have discovered a new species of hadrosauroid dinosaur that roamed in what is now the Gobi Desert approximately 90 million years ago. So, this is around um what's pushing 22 million years before Tyrannosaurus rex would evolve, as well as Triceratops.
Like Track said, yeah, more dinosaurs.
So, yeah, good to, yeah, let's keep going. So when it comes to, yeah, especially this hadrosaur seems to have something in par with like Gripposaurus, and not so much when it comes to like Edmontosaurus from North America.
Grip or gripe?
Oh, maybe Gryposaurus.
Oh, I thought there was another one.
That one I believe is over from North America, and probably pushing somewhere around 25 to 30 feet in length, or pushing 7.8 to 9 meters. But this is a very, if this is the skull, this is miraculous as to how well preserved this is. Okay. Let's bring up, hold on. Let's take a deeper look. We'll bring up some other dinosaurs. So, members of the dinosaur family Hadrosauridae, also known as duck-billed dinosaurs, were widespread and ecologically important large herbivores during the late Cretaceous epoch, but little is known about their early evolution. Yeah, I would say in recent years it has picked up slightly, but there is that gap in the hadrosaurs evolution, especially like around 82 to 84 million years ago when they're first evolving, when they're evolving from later iguanodontid species. So evolving from iguanodon. In recent years, many new hadrosaurid species have been filling in this picture, but few complete remains are known from the early part of the late Cretaceous, which is when the group originated. Yeah, I would also say with a lot of these species, they tend to be quite fragmented when it comes to their fossil preservation. But for some reason, when it comes to the hadrosaurs in general, you could say this also with different species of ceratopsians that they coexisted with. So the horned dinosaurs that would evolve into Triceratops, Monoclonius, they are also well preserved, almost as if just the specific sediment that they were buried with, just very efficiently protected them. Let's see. So Dr. Kishkivov,
Kishkebab?
yeah,
Ooh,
Dr. Kishkivov,
sounds like a
just
shish kebab.
Scott Batar. So he must be familiar with T Rex's Asian cousin, Tarbosaurus batar. From the Mongolian Academy of Science and colleagues found a new species closely related to Hadrosauridae, Gobihedros mongoliensis. Wow, so many different Asian dinosaurs, especially coming in from the late Cretaceous over in Mongolia, are given Mongoliensis as their species. And this doesn't hasn't happened with dinosaurs. This has occurred with prehistoric mammals as well, coming in from Mongolia, approaching, in some cases, the Ice Age, or even a bit earlier in time from the Pliocene, Miocene, or even Oligocene epochs. And I think this has even occurred with fish. So, an almost complete and undeformed skull and skeleton of this dinosaur, as well as extensive referred material, were unearthed in the Bashan Sav region of the Gobi Desert. Okay, let's head over and bring up another Tyrannosaur. Okay. So I think it's KAA, Kankulu, um, NK, HULUU, Kankulu.
Oh, you're oh my god. It's KHANKHUULUU. Jesus. So you just
Yeah.
left out a U, I think.
Yeah, it's very long. Well, I wouldn't say too long. It's just the very distinct syllables of this genus. Oh, right. This was actually found relatively recently. I forgot. I was thinking it was much further back. And also, I think some people might confuse this animal for a species of dromaeosaur that existed over in northern China around, I believe, like 70 to 73 million years ago. So far after this specific species of earlier tyrannosaur. So this could possibly be an ancestor to T Rex. But this is somewhere around 90 to 93 million years ago. So Kankulu was discovered back in 2025 over in Mongolia. And it also was given the name Mongoliensis.
Okay, is this a joke?
Well, somebody made it, but Yeah, I think this guy's got a bit of an issue. You know what he looks like?
I don't know
Almost to an
what he looks
extent.
like.
Kinda reminds me of those creepy, bipedal lizard, creatures from the show Primeval. But besides that, those things could, like, jump in trees, and they had sickle claws. It was odd. But, he has never skipped cap day. And,
Oh my god, I didn't realize that.
um yeah, besides that, he seems to have quite a short skull compared to his body size. His neck structure, in my opinion, is a bit robust for Cankulu. Cankulu, when it comes to the earlier tyrannosaurs in general, especially the smaller species, they were quite um, lightly built. So, in many cases, more of like a skinny sort of a reconstruction. But you had also certain species that were more gracile, so a bit more of like a lean sort of a structure. You even see that in different medium-sized species of tyrannosaurs as well. But it seems to be here he's passing possibly a species of the um, probably ancestors to the Leptoceratopsid lineage of ceratopsians, because the Leptoceratopsids had not evolved yet. They won't really evolve for maybe another 10 million years, depending on when Cankulu truly evolved during the early late Cretaceous.
Performance enhanced dinosaurs.
Yeah, especially this guy. He has definitely been
No,
working
I
on
think
spring.
this is what
Oh, yeah. Him.
Wait,
He,
wait, I got another one.
what? Huh? Um, it's like somebody tried to stick in a hyenodont from the Oligocene epoch, combined it with, it's almost got like a bear sort of accumulation to it. And then what, a bit of a cat to some extent. It almost has like wolf sort of feet too. I mean, very distinct from wolves, but
This is the
just like,
strangest looking dinosaur I think I've seen.
yeah. I think it's somebody's model though.
I don't know, I'm wondering if it's
No, wait.
AI.
I don't know. I mean, it does have that appearance, but there's something else about it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just the logo on the corner. But yeah, and then it's got that weird um looks like some art character. No, even then they wouldn't give it that odd of a tail.
Maybe it's from a game.
Yeah. I
What
was thinking like one of those
what is
creatures
this?
from yeah, some academy I'm not familiar with.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, well back to real life in the late Cretaceous. Those specific sauropods in the background is not hitting me what that specific species could be. There are a handful of Mongolian or East Asian sauropods that do occur during the early late Cretaceous. And then there is a bit of a gap between like 88 to 90 million years ago, and then to around 70 to 72 million years ago when it comes to the sauropod family. But it would also occur for a wide range of different dinosaur families around the world. It seems to be, it's really places like North America. You could say maybe certain parts of Asia that would or seem to have a steady sort of um, like occurrence of different species of ceratopsians, tyrannosaurs, sauropods, not as much, and but definitely ornithopods. So what would become the hadrosaurs, except for this period of time, like what we're seeing in the discovery, it's quite a mystery. But this species of tyrannosaur was somewhere around I think 15 to 18 feet in length. They're pushing somewhere around 5 to 5.6 meters and probably weighed, well, I guess a bit off on that, maybe 4.7 to 5.6 meters, but probably weighed not much more than 1,500 pounds or a little over 700 kilograms. Was likely feeding on probably the smaller species of ceratopsians in the area, maybe also going after different earlier hadrosauromorphs, which is not the same thing as like a true member of Hadrosauridae, and maybe even younger like sauropod hatchlings at this point. So, oh yeah, there's a good reconstruction. This animal was also somewhat tall compared to its length. I mean, probably reaching somewhere around 6.6 to 7 feet in height, or 2 meters to like 2.15 meters. Okay, let's head back to the article. So, an anatomical analysis revealed that Gobi hadros mongoliensis doesn't quite fit into Hadrosauridae. Ugh. Well, I guess it's not too surprising. I mean, this was what, 90 million years ago? Hadrosauridae won't really evolve for another maybe 7 to 8 million years. So, but it is a very close cousin, making it the first such dinosaur known from complete remains from the late Cretaceous of Central Asia. Woo! That's really good to hear. Okay, so it's just pointing to the different parts of the skull. Oh, yeah, here's the skeleton in general. Now, we don't really know specifically, at least at the moment, how much of the skeleton they discovered. I wouldn't doubt that it's a sheer amount, especially coming from a hadrosauromorph. But it's definitely pretty distinct from other hadrosaurs. It could be Gryposaurus is also another hadrosauromorph and not a true hadrosaur. As this skull, it's pretty far off for a true hadrosaur in general. A true hadrosaur is going to have a bit more of like a thinner, a bit more of like a longer and narrow snout. Now, you do have certain larger species like Shantungosaurus from China and Saurolophus, but they still didn't necessarily have as tall of a skull structure. So let's see. Decently long shin bones and even ankles compared to the thighs. So definitely not a slow runner. So Gobi Hadros
Wait, didn't it say they found almost the entire skull of this thing?
it seems to be that way, but it's not labeling here
Oh,
like
it did
specifically.
here. Hold on. There.
Yeah. I was just wondering when it came to the rest of the body. What was the other thing? Oh, another thing, if this is true, as to why this also would not be a member of Hadrosauridae, is if you notice here, this animal has a thumb, or it's being reconstructed with a thumb spike. Duckbill dinosaurs or hadrosaurs lost their thumbs. So that would also keep it from the family as well. Also living much earlier. So Gobi Hadros mongoliensis did not directly give rise to later Asian hadrosaurs. Oh. Instead, those Asian hadrosaurs appear to have migrated over from North America during the late Cretaceous. Oh, I guess. Huh. That is interesting. Okay, so I guess it's a mystery to me still as to how specifically like the gap between the iguanodontids and then true North American hadrosaurs, or even the hadrosauromorphs becoming the hadrosaurs in this case. That is odd. The new species and its close Asian relatives seem to disappear as these new hadrosaurs enter Asia, suggesting that the invaders might have ultimately outcompeted species like Gobihadrus mongoliensis. Interesting. You could have also had it where maybe the animals interbred with each other and you no longer had that older, like hadrosauromorph look or later iguanodontid. You might have had it where, like, it's saying they simply outcompeted the animal or possibly even killed it to an extent. But that seems to be more of like a carnivore thing. But you still have it where herbivores will kill other herbivores. Um, I always think.
Any other questions or comments?
Oh, well, actually, there is another tyrannosaur we could put up here. Well, not necessarily tyrannosaur. Another just carnivore in general. Siates. Siats. But this animal, it's still a big debate as to what
There you go.
specifically it could be. Oh, well, that's interesting, toy. Um, yeah, I guess you could say there is a somewhat resemblance. Interesting, they stuck him on. I wouldn't necessarily say this was found too long ago, but not necessarily a recent discovery. I believe it was discovered back in 2012. Now, the problem is Sciates, when it comes to what specific type of carnivore it is, it's a huge mystery. It does seem to be overall a member of the Avarostra lineage of theropod dinosaurs. However, there are certain debates or other paleontologists suggesting that it could be a megaraptorid, judging by the morphology of the skull structure, the arms, and I think overall, like even part of the pelvis, as well as certain other paleontologists suggesting that it's just another unidentified lineage of Avarostra, or at least it's just not known as to specifically what this animal could be a part of. But Sciates did inhabit Utah around 99 million years ago. So this was towards the very beginning, like the first 2 million years of the early uh yeah, of the early late Cretaceous. Now it's interesting, he's coming to contact with certain types of dromaeosaurs. It's not hitting me what specifically type of animal this could be. It could be an ancestor to the Dromaeosaurus, but Dromaeosaurus won't evolve for another probably 25 million years. And Dromaeosaurus also was probably not coming into contact or wanting to deal with a possibly 2 to 3 ton predator. Um, that's not a Ceax. I believe this is supposed to depict a Gorgosaurus back in Lake Cretaceous, Alberta. Gorgosaurus might have occasionally roamed into Utah, so this was like a medium-sized species of Tyrannosaur. I think it's a good picture. But he did not come into contact with Sciates. Probably didn't even come into contact with any species of Avarostra in general. Okay. Well, this is an interesting depiction. They are giving him very Megaraptorid like arms. That is interesting.
Right. There's an arc
But
version.
his knee, what on earth? I mean, it's its own distinct look. Problem is the tongue wouldn't be sticking up like that. It is interesting. I mean, this animal, yeah, it's like something between almost like a Metracanthosaur, a Carcharodontosaur, and then a Megaraptor to an extent.
Oh, wait.
Very odd dinosaur. Jaw seems a bit short on this animal, but interesting depiction. Where are his eyes?
Oh, hold on.
So this guy's got a mane.
I know. I was thinking, is he a lion?
Yeah, I mean that's it's quite interesting. Not sure if we have any. I don't think we have any evidence for any dinosaurs having specifically manes. But we do have it to where different species of dinosaurs, especially possibly the Megaraptorids, were probably feathered. As well as just members of the Coelurosaur lineage in general. But we are talking about Avarostra. It certainly is possible, but this animal, especially for the size and where it inhabited, also the climate, probably didn't need feathers, especially for warmth. Even if it did have feathers, when it came to overall like attracting mates, it probably, I just would assume that it wouldn't play a major role and probably wouldn't be too colorful either. Now the crest towards the top of its skull probably would be. That would be its main attractant. But this animal is also somewhere around, I believe, 25 to 30 feet in length, possibly slightly larger. So pushing somewhere around 8 to maybe 9.5 meters. Was probably feeding on certain species of later sauropod that inhabited late Cretaceous Utah at this point. This was
That's another mange one.
that's interesting. This might be depicting a young one. Certainly is possible. It's got a very sort of gracile appearance to it, and the arms are somewhat Megaraptor like. Skull is very unlike a Megaraptor, though. I'm just saying that by, like, I think it's a good depiction overall of a young Sciates, but when it comes to just classifying it as a Megaraptor or maybe even later Avarostran, it's just a big question because it's very mixed in overall morphology. It almost even represents when it comes to the skull, like certain members of the Avitheropod lineage over in the early Jurassic. So animals like maybe even Saltriovinator, but that was one of the earliest species. Certain other ones, maybe I'm thinking of certain later Metracanthosaurs, like even Concavinator, but we're talking about also late Jurassic and even early Cretaceous. So it's a very distinct species of dinosaur. Okay, well, thanks for joining. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guy Live Daily News. Happy International Avarostran Theropod Day. And remember that nothing is better than all animals all the time.